Inside the Law, a podcast about the law and the people behind the practice. I'm your host, Ahsan Jafry. Welcome back Inside the Law. Today we're going inside the law with Joe Romano, a partner in our Pittsburgh office. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
You turned the mug around the wrong side there, man. We have strict rules on this podcast.
I'm right-handed, and for some reason we've only bought left-handed mugs, and otherwise I'm going to burn my hand, which is a worker's comp injury. So thanks for that.
Yeah. So yes, you are part of our workers' compensation department.
That's right? Exactly right.
Okay, great. So let's start by talking about a little bit of background, your path to law school in Burns White, and what you do here.
All right.
Let's start from the beginning. Where are you from?
So I'm from Pittsburgh. I'll say I was North Hills, Pittsburgh. Grew up in Hampton, which is just 10 minutes north, 15 minutes north of Pittsburgh. Went to Shadyside Academy, and then from Shadyside Academy I went to Washington Jefferson College, which is an hour or so south of Pittsburgh, just down 79. After W&J, I went on to Duquesne Law School. Did my 3 years at Duquesne. Came out and
that's a popular school at Burns.
Well, you're in Pittsburgh, so you got pretty much Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh and Duquesne, and one of those schools is better than the other. And then you got a few other schools that kind of feed into the Western Pennsylvania population of lawyers.
Yeah, mostly Duquesne people I've seen here.
Well, I think we might have had some leadership that was primarily Duquesne, and that could have fed its way through.
If I influence the things.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But my parents always said go to law school.
That's what I was saying. Like, what drove you to the law?
My parents literally just always said, go be an attorney.
Really?
They were both physicians.
Okay.
I guess they were jealous of their friends that were attorneys and thought that was the way to go in life.
And you showed them.
Let's just say I'm jealous of my other siblings who do something other than practice the law.
Oh, okay. Well, you've done pretty good both.
I can't complain. Yeah. I can't complain. So it's been a good career so far, and hopefully it's got a few more years left in it.
Okay, and you went to Duquesne Law School,
mm-hmm.
And what brought you to? Well, first, when did you graduate?
2009, I believe it was.
All right.
Yeah, 2009, give or take.
Okay, and then when did you start at Burns White?
So I started Burns White the following year. I spent a very short stint at a plaintiff's personal injury firm.
Okay.
For just a few months, maybe 6 months, maybe something less than that. And I kind of realized I am not of the right mindset to be a plaintiff's attorney. And that's not necessarily a comment on plaintiff's attorneys. It's just, I think certain people have certain mindsets, and mine was clearly geared to the other side of the equation. I felt like every time I interviewed a client, I was like, what are you trying to get from somebody here? And that's obviously not a great mindset when you're trying to advance their cause.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was early 2010, mid 2010, a friend of mine who was here, Tim Seckler, he was working the workers' comp group and said that there was an opening. I interviewed for it. I completely bombed the interview until Scott Newman started asking me about ice hockey, and
there you
kind of came out of my shell a little bit. And I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, you're an ice hockey guy, right?
I am an ice hockey guy.
We'll get to that in a second.
Right.
I have a lot to ask you about that, actually, so we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
All right, so you've been here for your whole career, pretty much.
15 years, essentially, yeah, my whole career. I had just had my 15th anniversary just a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
All right. Awesome.
I just remember there was some kind of post about it. So.
Oh, right, nice. Did they give you anything?
No, they didn't give me anything.
No left-handed mug?
No, if they would give me a right-handed mug, it would be the best thing ever. No, the only reason I know is because I got a bunch of LinkedIn notifications of people congratulating me, and I was like, I don't know what they're congratulating me for, and then I realized.
Yeah, those can be deceptive, dude, when you get those congratulations. Uh-huh. It's like kind of like, I did something, and like actually it's like, not. It's like, I think it's like they're generated. So people who get those messages from people for congratulations, they're usually like, LinkedIn forcing you to.
It was interesting because every congratulation message was the exact same kind.
Right, so, yeah. It's like self-created, and it's like, do you want to congratulate this person? It's almost like offensive when you don't get the message, because it's like somebody has to make an effort not to congratulate you.
Well, it's actually when, because you'll get those little reminders on your notification page to go congratulate somebody for something. And I always make it a point not to use one of the stock ones because I want it to actually feel as though I meant the congratulations.
There you go.
So I almost never use in fact, if I give you a stock one, you probably should be offended. Because all I do is click the button.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to talking about Burns White. So you're one of those guys who've built your whole career here.
Yep.
And you've gone through every step of the way.
Yep.
And congratulations on making equity partner, I think,
Thank
last
you.
year, right? This is your first full year as an equity partner? Or?
No, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
So 2 years ago I made it. I was full equity for last year, and this is my second year now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. It's been a good journey. I always give my success to somebody else. Early on in my career, I always said it was Carrie Trish, who was my legal assistant when I started, and she saved me so many times just because she had such an inherent knowledge of
definitely
what needed done and when. And workers' compensation there's a lot of repetitive nature to workers' comp, and she knew exactly when I was screwing something up or not, and she was very good with correcting me, and I was fortunate enough to let her correct me.
Yeah.
But the advice I always give to young associates when they start, especially in the workers' comp group, because we have an excellent team behind us, is if they tell you you're doing something wrong, listen to them, because they know exactly what they're doing.
It's interesting. A lot of younger lawyers, a lot of them, it's their first job they ever had.
Yeah.
So that's a good advice to give young attorneys, is to pay attention to people around you.
Absolutely.
And if somebody's looking out for you, take advantage of it. Right?
Absolutely. And so I honestly think I survived and did well my first couple of years because, again, I had such a great team helping me. I had to take care of the legal work, but when there was some of those small procedural things that you just don't realize, they were able to help me along the way. And then after that, I got to give a lot of credit to Scott Newman. Scott has always been very upfront, very direct. If anybody's ever had a conversation with Scott, you know he's very direct.
Yeah.
But he's just kind of always been very upfront with what it takes to get to the next phase in life.
Right. He was on my team for the Tough Mudder that we had. Once upon a time. We're not allowed to talk about that event though on the podcast. But any attorney who's been at Brent's White for longer than, what was it, 10 years? What did we had 11 years ago?
Yeah, it was roughly 15, I think.
And we all know, everybody who's been around.
There were no chemical burns.
But he was on my team for that,
No, but Scott was always very upfront with me on what you needed to do to be successful. And I can remember, it might not have been the first conversation I ever had with Scott, but it was definitely an early conversation. I said, by 40 years old, I want to be an equity partner. And so you brought up making equity partner a couple years ago. It was a really important achievement for me personally to have actually made it before I turned 40. I was 39 when the vote occurred, and it was literally something I'd always said. I said, by 40 years old, I want to be an equity partner, and I did it, but I did it because I had the roadmap given to me by Scott.
Yeah.
And the firm as a whole supported me every step of the way. I've never had a marketing event turned down. Anytime I ever wanted to do something, they just supported me in doing it. And I'm not necessarily sure that is something you see everywhere.
Yeah, I can tell he was pretty proud of you, Scott was. He was pretty proud of you. I remember when you were put up and stuff like that. So it was nice. It was nice to see somebody supporting you. And
I appreciate it. Like I said, but he made it very clear how to be successful, and it's just a matter of implementing the plan.
Okay, all right, cool. And there's, as far as your path though, just so people can kind of see, it didn't just happen overnight. So if you could kind of just walk through some of the leadership opportunities that were given to you as a young lawyer at this firm.
Sure. So I think even before I made the first level of partnership, I was on the summer associate committee.
Okay.
So I was helping interview, people coming in for our summer associate program, helping choose those individuals, and kind of giving my input on that.
Yeah.
And again, that summer associate committee was actually a very good mix of associates, non-equity partners, and equity partners. And so you kind of, you show up, you do your job on that, you get your name out there, and that was kind of my first mix. And then at some point, I don't remember whether I was on the lower level of partnership or the second level of partnership, but then I was a part of a leadership program that the firm, I think there was a number of attorneys, 8, 9, 10, something along those lines. But a lot of the attorneys who were in that program have gone on to become equity partners.
And leaders in the firm.
And that was an excellent opportunity. The most valuable aspect to me for that, beyond just the actual leadership course, was being able to spend time with people from the eastern part of the state that I don't necessarily get to mix with. Anne Frankel and I, we always enjoy seeing each other because we were in that group together, and I always enjoy talking to her because I believe there was a connection that was made there because of that leadership program.
Right, yeah.
And then after that, I was a part of the non-equity member committee, where we kind of advanced issues on behalf of non-equity partners. I think some of that was, I'm trying to think of what we accomplished. We accomplished a few things. I think one year we had a all hands-on town hall meeting kind of thing to address certain concerns.
I remember that actually. It was good because that gave it was kind of the advancement process was discussed, right? And and it gave more transparency to people as far as what it takes to make your way through the firm and build a career here.
I think the biggest thing that the committee accomplished was probably the training program that we implemented.
Sure. Yeah.
There's now a training program that occurs every few months that covers different topics. Whether it's writing or marketing or whatever the subject might be. Yeah. So that we implemented that training program. And then shortly after that training program was implemented is when I became an equity partner. So I think you were on that program. You were on the committee with me, right?
Yeah, I was. We both got off that committee eventually.
Correct. We advanced to equity partner. So we weren't on that committee anymore, but that was right when I switched over. And then since becoming an equity member, I'm now on. I'm not necessarily sure we truly have a finance committee, but I'm calling it a finance committee because it's with Dave D'Amico. Again, thinking about succession planning, thinking about the next generation of the firm, Dave recognized that we needed to bring in some of the next generation to kind of learn how the finances of the firm work. Mm-hmm. So Andrew Fuga and I work with Dave and Diana and other people on what I'll call the finances of the firm.
Sure,
so that's another little leadership role that I've taken on since.
And the thing is, the one thing that I'm recognizing in all these things that you're saying is a lot of this takes time outside of the practice of your day-to-day job. And kudos to you for stepping up and investing in yourself.
I appreciate it.
I think what happens is, I can tell you, for other lawyers in the firm, we had these, the non-equity committee, mm-hmm. the associates committee, the summer associates. We have a lot of different committees. We have the diversity committee. We have a lot of different committees in the firm. And people have to take the time to step up and participate, and those who do gain benefit from it. But it surprises me because as somebody who actually was on a lot of those committees myself, and I was kind of like, why don't more people try and do this? And it's usually the same core people who invest into development of the firm, and they're the ones that end up advancing.
Yeah. Well, and I agree. One of the things I said. I bring up Scott's name a lot because it's somebody I spent 15 years with. But I remember saying to Scott early at a young age, I said, I just assumed everybody who went to law school wanted to become a partner and run the place, right? We're all aiming for that top level, and it was a bit of an eye-opening experience to see that some people aren't interested in that,
right?
And so you gotta.
It takes a sacrifice too.
It does take a sacrifice, but again, you kind of need to identify who wants to do what, right? And there's not necessarily saying one person is better than the other. It is supporting those individuals in what path they want to choose for their career. Mm-hmm. Because you are right. It's not just the sacrifice and the time to the firm, but obviously you don't get to leadership positions without getting a certain level of clientele, right?
Sure. Right.
And that was always. Going to conferences, going to seminars, doing those things, that's a time commitment as well. But, I can still remember my dad, I used to hate it when he said it, but he said it all the time. But, it's something that rings with me every day. My dad would always say, doing just enough is never enough.
Yeah, it's never enough.
And so that's kind of always what I've done in my career. If somebody asked me to do something, if somebody asked me to speak at an engagement, somebody asked me to go to a conference, the answer was always yes.
Yeah.
And the number of times I've said to my wife the day before I'm leaving to go somewhere, I can't believe I signed up for this. Uh-huh. I'm so busy, I don't have time for it. It's Groundhog Day.
Right.
But, if there's an advice I can give to a young associate right now, it's just say yes.
Yeah.
Figure it out, just say yes.
Yeah. And speaking of which, you mentioned your wife. How long are you married now?
11. So that's what, 14? Yeah, next year will be our 15th anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah, Megan's a very important part.
She's an attorney as well, right?
She's an attorney as well. She actually just got promoted. She's a Microsoft in-house counsel. I think she's senior corporate counsel now.
Oh, nice.
I believe that's the title. But yeah, she is what makes all of this happen because she supports.
That's a common thread for all of us. We all marry well here, Brent's White.
Correct. Frankly, I don't know how she does it because again, she's cultivated an excellent legal career while also shouldering so much of the burden with the kids.
How old are your kids now?
Anthony's 11,
okay,
and Stella is 9.
Okay. So you're in it still.
We are. Well, it's funny. Like every stage, you think like, oh, it's gonna get easier.
Yeah.
And then like the new stuff happens that just is so hard.
Yeah. We were almost out of like the. Like when they get a little older, like when they're in high school and stuff like that, it's a different set of needs.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I always say my favorite time was probably when they were like 3 to 8 years old because there wasn't that much sports yet, but they were old enough to kind of sort of be on cruise control. Like I didn't have to jump out of bed on a Saturday morning to take care of something. But now that they are truly on cruise control, I mean, the kids, they cook their dinner sometime, they'll put stuff in the oven, they'll wash dishes and all that. But now I'm running them everywhere. I'm I'm a professional chauffeur these days.
When they start driving, it's awesome.
Yeah.
You're almost there.
I can't wait. But yeah, like Megan and I, again, part of the success is, we've figured out what works for us. Mm-hmm. Megan handles a lot of that, I'll call that mental load of making sure appointments are being met, stuff like that I could never handle. I would forget everything.
It's amazing to me.
Our kids would never go to the dentist or be at the doctor if it was up to me. I kind of shoulder like the food and the laundry because, again, I don't mind waking up and folding a thing of laundry while I'm watching sports, right? So that family aspect has to be figured out at the same time as the professional aspect, and you kind of fall into your roles there.
Yeah.
So, but again, if there's 2 people to thank for my career, it's Scott Newman and Megan Romano.
That's another common thing here. All right, so let's go through some trivia questions. Do you mind?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's do it.
All right. First question. The concept of when workers in workers' compensation, where workers don't have to prove employer negligence, benefits are provided regardless of fault.
So, this is not going to be the most eloquent statement you'll ever hear come out of my mouth, but we insure stupidity.
Okay.
Right?
What's the answer?
What? So read the question one more time.
Okay. The concept where workers don't have to prove employer's negligence, benefits are provided regardless of fault.
So workers' compensation is a no-fault scheme, essentially. But like I said,
I have to get the answer first.
I wanted to go straight to the explanation. Like any good lawyer, I'll just word you to death, right? Again, as I said, we insure stupidity. The number of times I've had to talk to an employer and they say, "I can't believe they would have done this," or we didn't do anything wrong, or they were clearly at fault. It doesn't matter. It is part of what workers' compensation described as the grand bargain. We provide essentially a no-fault mechanism of law in exchange for limited benefits. We don't necessarily give the same damages that you'll see in a civil suit, but at the same time, for the injured worker, they don't have to prove that level of negligence to then be able to recover for those damages, we'll call it.
Okay. We have the hockey question now.
Hockey, let's go.
All right, and then we'll talk about your hockey stuff after we get to the question. Okay. Who was the goalie who won back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2016, 2017?
He was 2006. I thought you were going in the 90s.
Yeah.
All right. 2006.
I'm trying to make it easier to make it more recent for you.
What was his name? Was it Murray?
Yes, Matt Murray.
Because I remember Fleury was on the one team, but he was the backup. Because there was all of that controversy, and then Fleury had left for Vegas, and the Penguins won the next year. Okay. But if we want to go back to the 90s, you got Tommy Barrasso, the nicest guy in the world, I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why I want to bring up hockey with you is because I know you're a hockey player.
I am a hockey player.
You were you have the classic hockey player look. It's like anybody met you and had a conversation with you, like this guy's a hockey player. And you played growing up, right?
Played growing up. I started roughly 8 years old, give or take, which is in today's world, very late.
Right.
I make the terrible joke that people come out of the womb with skates on these days,
Right.
right? But at 8 years old, my dad took me to a Penguins playoff game against the Devils. I had never played hockey. I had never watched hockey. It was literally my first experience with hockey.
What playoff game was it?
The Devils, it was either Game 5 or Game 7 of 1991.
Okay.
It was the first Penguin Stanley Cup run. And I was just addicted.
Yeah.
I was addicted to hockey from that point on. I came out of it. I told my dad I wanted to play ice hockey, and that's exactly what we did. Like any good.
And you had a good run playing hockey as a kid.
I was okay. It helps when you are 6'4".
Yeah.
You can't teach 6'4". I was okay. I made some pretty advanced teams. Unfortunately, by the time I was 16, 17 years old, I had multiple shoulder surgeries, and I just clearly didn't have the body for it anymore.
Hey.
I remember I went to Dr. James Bradley, who's the Steelers doctor, and he was making comments like, I have professional athletes who can't survive these shoulder surgeries.
Hey.
You're a 16-year-old kid. It's probably time to think about something else.
Yeah. You still play that, right?
I still play. While I was in law school, I coached the varsity team at Shadyside Academy.
Okay.
I went back for 2 to 4 years. I coached at Shadyside towards the end of law school and the start of law, and I realized I just didn't have the time to dedicate everything, so hockey fell to the wayside. I played adult league for a while. I quit adult league for a long time because there's a innate switch in me that I can't turn off.
That's what I want to talk. That's what I'm trying to get you to talk about. Like, I just want to talk about the anger and the fighting, right? That's like because it's like you're such a chill guy, but like hockey players, it's like the only sport where like fighting is just like celebrated.
And again, when I grew up playing, fighting was a true part of the game. These days, when I hear about how strict they are with fighting these days, it's crazy to me because fighting wasn't just a part of the game. Like, we went to boxing lessons because you wanted to learn actually how to fight at like 12 years old, right? So we were doing those things to learn how to fight on the ice, and now you can't do it. But as I'm playing adult league and stuff, just something goes off on me when in the wrong situation. So I quit because I couldn't control it. Like I was like, I'm going to end up getting arrested and hurting somebody. So I quit adult league for like 15 years. And then over the last couple of months,
I'm like laughing about this, and people are like horrified about it right now. And they're just kind of like, what kind of lawyers are at this firm where they're celebrating violence?
We're aggressive lawyers who will fight for you.
But the thing is, though, I mean, like, because we were talking earlier, and I mean, we're not talking about like years ago. This is like last week, right? Like,
well, so I started up again about a couple of months ago. I've had a friend who has been just bugging me for years to come out and play. And finally I was like, I don't have anything else better to do. So I finally went out and played, and again, I'm like addicted again. I've been playing like 2 or 3 nights a week for the last couple of months. And then again, what you want me to finally talk about is just a couple weeks ago, this guy was running his mouth. He was a jerk on the ice. He was doing things he shouldn't have done, and I just might have gone over and threw him.
Yeah, and there's a video of it, which they're not allowing me to play. Like, I really wanted to put it on, like you have to contact us privately if you want to see that video.
Well, and I still defend myself in the situation because you're not supposed to be fighting in adult league hockey, and nobody wants to be that guy. But I go and I push this guy, and nobody on his team defended him. Yeah. Which to me says he was in the wrong the whole time, and I just needed to put him in his place.
To be true, like when I saw the video, it looked like you kind of went out of your way to push him.
Oh, absolutely.
It was like you're like really far away.
I skated across the ice to push him.
I was kind of like, wait, this doesn't look like
No, this was not a scrum in front of the net. This was a guy who was a jerk the entire game. And again, in adult league, we're all fun. Like, we just want to go out. We want to play some puck. We want to not get hurt and just go home, right? It's just a good workout. And then every so often you have these guys who think they're still in the Stanley Cup. And we unfortunately had one of those. And
that was a pretty funny video.
I pushed him and I immediately walked away. There was nothing more after.
That's what I wanted to talk about. That's actually the reason why I brought you on the podcast, just to talk about that one incident. Okay. All right, another workers' compensation question. Which of the following damages are covered by workers' compensation? Medical benefits, wage loss, and pain and suffering.
So it'd be medical and it would be wage loss. We do not cover pain and suffering. talking about that grand bargain that I mentioned earlier, because it's a no-fault system, we have decided, somebody else much smarter than me decided that we were only going to give away certain benefits to injured workers, and those include medical, so any medical treatment that is reasonable, necessary, and causally related to your work injury gets paid for. We also give wage loss benefits, which is calculated based upon somebody's average weekly wage. We look at what they earned over the prior year, and we determine what their average weekly wage is, and then from there it's reduced to a compensation rate. And so they get those benefits. And then there's a very narrow set of benefits called specific loss, which typically will apply when somebody either loses a body part or loses the use of that body part. And then also if you have a disfiguring, I'll say scar, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a scar, but a disfigurement on your face or neck. It has to be from the collarbone and up. It cannot be below the collarbone. Although there's legislation proposed to change that. I don't ever think that legislation will go very far, but there is legislation out there to change that. And then the last kind of set of benefits, there are death benefits when somebody unfortunately passes away as a result of a work injury. In those circumstances, there's a schedule of what a spouse and dependents will receive if somebody passes away. And the percentages change depending on whether there's a spouse and the number of children or just children and no spouse. And every time somebody asks me a question on it, I have to look it up. So I'm not going to pretend to know the percentages off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, it's pretty impressive. I mean, the workers' compensation is really, it's an interesting area of law that, unless you're in it, you don't really, you're not familiar with this.
There is nothing worse in workers' compensation than dealing with an attorney who doesn't know workers' compensation law. Because as you know, attorneys know everything.
Yeah, of course.
But when they don't know what they're doing in workers' comp, it is like trying
It's very obvious.
Yes.
It's very obvious.
And they make everything more difficult than it needs to be, and they're bringing in this experience from other areas of law, and they don't understand it, and it's a very painful litigation process. We have a very, I'll give this kudos to the other attorneys in workers' compensation in the state. The workers' compensation bar across the state is a very tight-knit community. We all, for the most part, know each other. We all, for the most part, get along really well.
Sure.
And I think it's a real testament to workers' compensation as a practice that the attorneys kind of recognize the role everyone plays in this. We all fight for our clients, but at the same time, we're all able to chat with each other outside of the courtroom.
Okay, great. All right, Joe, I think
although Philadelphia might be a little worse than
yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Just going to throw that out there.
Market, so that's probably true. All right, Joe, taking up enough of your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Last thing, you're one of the people who are kind of recognized as probably the future of our firm. Any thoughts as far as the outlook and how you see things going?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think the firm is in an excellent position going forward. I think again, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I think our old guard recognizes the need to start transitioning to the next generation of leadership, and they've been willing to do that, right? There are lots of law firms whose downfall have been the older generation just doesn't want to give it up, right? And in this situation, I think our older generation of leaders are not only wanting to give it up, they're trying to support us in doing so.
Sure, and they've been doing that for a while.
Correct. And so I think that will position us to hand off that leadership to the next generation and really carry us forward. All the offices are positioned in a great way. We're expanding in certain regions. We're making really intelligent decisions to really make ourselves stronger. So, I've been here for 15 years, and hopefully I'm here for another, 20 or so.
Yeah, I'll probably longer than that.
Well,
You're a young guy.
The moment somebody tells me I can be done, I'll be done. But hopefully it's about another 20 years or so.
All right. Well, looking forward to having that journey with you.
All right. Well, thank you, Son. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
The information contained in this podcast is considered an outline intended to be supplemented by an attorney. The information is not legal advice and should not be considered as such. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or comments regarding this episode, feel free to email us at podcast@burnswhite.com.